What's up, everyone? It's Paul. Welcome to the Portal Room. As always, I got my co-host Christian joining us for tonight. And we got a very, very special guest joining us tonight. One of the sweetest, kindest souls I've ever met. A great friend of the show, great friend of mine. One of the best dudes out there. Experiencer, lover, and good friend, Parsi.
Oh,
Hey,
how's it going,
Parsi.
man? How you doing?
What up, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing
Good
good.
to
How are
see
you
you
doing?
guys. Yeah, I've been all right, man. Just trying to live one foot in this reality. Trying not to get too crazy with all the shit that's out there, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm so proud of you for starting this. This was meant to be, man. So I remember the first day I ever saw you on X was when you had that Bruce Solheim coming on. I'm like, this guy is special. So I knew it from the start. So hope you guys been all right.
Yeah, we're doing good. Well, I'm doing good. I can't speak for Christian, but I'm doing good. And I know you've been on a bit of a journey. I think you just got back from Mumbai, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I was in. I stopped over in Singapore and I went to Mumbai basically to document my case. And I sent you some photographs, interesting photographs as well. And it was weird because everywhere I went and I pulled that camera out, our friends are there. Very interesting.
I love it. I'm happy to hear about the whole story. But first, our go-to question in the portal room. Give us the backstory and tell us how you got involved into the community.
Yeah, sure thing. So, lifelong experiencer. I was born in Bombay, India. It's called Mumbai. Belonged to a minority of Persian people called Parsis, hence the pseudonym Parsi X when I first came on. And my first experience with the phenomenon was at age 11 with my twin brother. And we lived in a five-story building. I actually went to that building and I sent you the photographs, so I don't know if you can share them or bring them up, but it's basically a five-story building in what's called a Parsi colony. So it's like an open colony where people, of my caste and creed and religion stay. And 1991, I think it was 12th or 15th of April. I kind of forget which day, but it's written on the illustrations. So it's about 9:15 at night. Never really heard about aliens or UFOs. We had MTV that just showed up, and pretty much I was playing with my He-Man toys, listening to my Alice in Chains, and I heard this really weird hum. It was like a whoa, whoa, whoa kind of hum. It was resonating through my bones, and I was like, what the hell is that sound? So compelled to go out on the balcony of my room, and I'm looking up, and I'm really bad with distances, but the building opposite me was the same height, 5 stories. So this object would have been about 10 stories. So it was really, really close. And as certain people in the psionic community described, it was an egg-shaped craft or like an American football shaped craft. The only reason I could ascertain the shape was because there were lights around. Yeah, there were lights around the perimeter of the craft. Now, what you guys are looking at is, or was, the illustrations that me and my twin brother did after we had our experience, because it's 91. You don't have cameras, you don't have Facebook or phones. It's all up in here. So the craft turns up and it's literally stuck up in the sky. And this portal or window opens up in the middle, and this three-fingered hand pops out, and it's like pudgy, looks like a dinosaur hand, like Barney's hand, and it starts waving. And I was really confused. I was having a really shocking moment. And it starts waving, so I wave back at it. I'm just waving at it. Now, unbeknownst to me, my twin was having the same experience. So there's a parallel balcony to my room. And it's like a wraparound balcony around the entire apartment. Now, this craft started moving from my point of view to my right, and I was like, I'm going to catch this thing on that balcony. So I run out on that balcony. And when I run out on the balcony, I'm not looking for the craft. I'm just fixated on my twin brother, frozen like this, waving at this thing. So I'm like, dude, what the hell? Are you seeing the same thing? And he goes, yeah. I've been seeing this for the last 5 minutes. So then it's both of us standing side by side waving at this thing. We have no idea what the hell's going on. Minds are blown. And this whole incident, I think, lasted about 15 minutes, but it felt forever. So it was literally stuck up in the sky, just moving really slowly off into the clouds. So then we're kind of buzzing, and we end up going to my parents. Went up to my mom, and I said, hey, Mom, I think we saw something like a UFO. And my mom's like, sure you did. But then it was her and her infinite wisdom that said, whatever you saw, you need to draw down. So she sends us in 2 separate rooms. And I come up first with my illustration, which is the one on the top. So she's looking at it and she's like, oh, okay, well, it looks like something. But then when my brother brings his illustration, that's when our eyes kind of pop out and say, you guys have seen the exact same thing. And we even wrote the same dates. It was 12th of April, about 9:15 p.m. And it's crazy because the illustrations are exactly the same. Now, the reason why my brothers got it drawn with black is because that's how it looked in the night sky. And then after that experience, I started experiencing what we call orbs these days. So I would be eating dinner about 7:30 p.m. Something would tell me to go out and walk on that long balcony. It's just like a strip. And I'd start walking, and then when I'd reach the end of the balcony, I would see these 2 lights moving with me, golden lights. And I thought, is that a plane or a helicopter and stuff? But it kept happening. And then one day I just faced them and I said, if you can hear me, can you move right? And this one moves right. Then I asked the other one, can you move left? And it moves left. And then in my mind's eye, I asked them, can you cross each other? And they cross each other. And that was a really shocking experience. I was like, I have no idea what to make of this. And I stopped thinking about or engaging with the phenomenon. But after that, I had an owl synchronicity pretty much right after, which I only kind of remember recently, was that in our Parsi culture, owls are a harbinger for death and infertility. So my mom said, if you ever see an owl at nighttime, never look at it in the eye because it's really bad luck for babies and for yourself. Lo and behold, one night I'm hearing this massive owl just hooting away. And it was literally like maybe about 4 feet. It was massive. And it was just sitting on the ledge looking at me. It was crazy. I had no idea what to make of that. So that was my first owl experience. So then after that, we moved around quite a bit. Lived in New Zealand for a few years. Nothing happened there. I moved to Canada for 10 years to be with my wife. Nothing really happened there. And then I moved back to Australia. And just recently, when I joined X a couple of years ago, I was like, I really need to get this off my chest. This is really affecting me mentally. So I joined UFO Twitter at that time, and slowly just started developing my confidence to start speaking about my case. While I was speaking about my case, I got curious about the experience. So I said, okay, I'm going to be a smartass and go for a QHHT session. And now, regression sessions can be misleading. People can lead you, but both my sessions, the people never led me. I just said what I had to say.
You have that recorded, right, Parsi? Didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, I've got a
You have that recorded, right?
5 hour. Yeah, so I've got a 5 hour, the original regression on MP3, but I'll probably fall asleep listening to it. But I'll send it to you anyway. But my second regression with Mary Rodwell is on my website, just for people to know that I'm not full of shit, for transparency reasons. So all this started happening after COVID. So it started with a Kundalini awakening. So I would start seeing my aura around my hands. I would perceive the energies of other people. Time would slow down for me. So I would see people crossing the road and see them cross in slow motion. And then I decided, let's go for this QHHT session. Unbeknownst to me, QHHT is past lives. It's nothing to do with this life. And almost at the start of this session, and it's not stopped till today, is my hands are always buzzing with energy. So it kind of started right away. And for those that know me, like I found out in that session, soul origin from the constellation of Lyra. So I saw my soul being born on this purple planet, and it was almost like a 4K version. It's like watching a television screen. I ended up seeing a past life as a Draco reptilian that I speak about. It was very traumatic. And then after that regression, I started getting negative entity attachments. So I closed my eyes and I thought I was going crazy. I'd see this being and I'd be able to draw it and hear the voices. So I started doing meditations for self-healing. Now, before we met, C5 and all that sort of stuff was really not my cup of tea. I'm not out there trying to engage and bring anything down on me. But that was a byproduct of this meditation. So Joe Dispenza had this amazing meditation called Walk for the World that I started doing. And almost immediately when I started doing these meditations, I see things in the sky outside my apartment in Melbourne. And I think maybe that's a satellite. So it could be a satellite once or twice, but when you're meditating and then all of a sudden you see these things constantly flying past, you get curious and start taking photographs of them. When you take photographs of them, you get all these weird shapes, like a star-shaped craft, a kind of a blue tic tac. I've seen them all, like TR3B, black triangle. And then after I started seeing these orbs and this phenomenon, the very first week, I started getting, so that's the Tic Tac version. That's a close-up of it. I started getting helicopters going over my place, and I was getting paranoid because I live right next to the airport, but the flight path is not over my apartment. But I'd have these things hovering over my place. So then that one day I saw this black helicopter. I'm like, what the fuck's this thing doing over my apartment? It's jet black, no signage. And I take photographs of this helicopter and I take a 4-second video. And now if you zoom in on the bottom, you can see the little black triangle craft. It's right up at the top of that. So this experience brought about a ton of PTSD because the helicopter goes off and I've got this 4-second video. And when you break down the video, you can see the helicopter go off. You can see a droplet of water falling from the balcony above me. But if you really slow it down, you can see the craft turn white, perfectly triangular shape, and then fly off in 4 seconds. So you can see how fast these things are. And that experience left me with a ton of PTSD. Like I was shaking. I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And that's when I started coming onto your spaces, Christian, when you decided to have these experiencer spaces. And I'd listen to you first, try to suss you out, make sure that you're not IC or someone crazy. And then I started getting the confidence to start talking about my case. And then all of us started talking, and then we discovered this crazy aspect of the phenomenon, which is orbs showing up while we're on the space, and I'm recording the orbs while we're on the space. So the phenomenon knows we're speaking about it, which kind of makes me believe that this might be some kind of a weird simulation that we're living in. So, I mean, the most profound one was the one that was me walking past the river and a red orb going over my head. And I was in the space with Christian and Top Rat, and I was freaking out. And I took videos of it, took a photograph of it, and it looks like a skull, literally looks like a face. And these are all the different types of craft that I've seen. And then the most profound experience that we all had was in that space with Kent and a whole bunch of people, Nathaniel, and we're speaking about deceased loved ones and the connection of the phenomenon between loved ones. And that's when I started seeing 30, 40 orbs coming at me from one point of origin, flying off in different directions. And I've popped that up on my YouTube channel. But if you look at the video, it's not really impactful because there's no sound because I had my headphones on. But you can see these things going off in different directions. So then I pulled out my app and I'm like, use Stellarium. These are not, these are not SpaceX or satellites. These are not rockets. What could they be? And coincidentally, I had SpaceX go over the very same day, and I filmed that. It goes in a diagonal line. So yeah, so those were the crazy experiences, and now all the photographs that you're seeing on there are just the craziest, wildest shit that flies over my head, and I happen to just be fortunate enough to take these photographs. It's been extremely difficult because trying to get your head around the ontological shock of dealing with these experiences is just, it's too much. But I'm really grateful because I have you guys, and I'm in a much better place now, 2025. I think 2024 was a year of punches, but I'm kind of coming to peace with these experiences in the sense that I think when experiences start out, it's all about us trying to prove to everyone else that this shit really happened. But it's more about convincing yourself, right? You have that experience and you can't sleep at night and you're thinking, did I really see what I saw? Or you look at that photograph and you see a face in an orb and you don't know what to make of it. So I was approached by a mutual friend of ours saying that I may be potentially in the sequel to their documentary. So I said, okay, well, I'm going off to India. I might as well just see if I can get something from there. And lo and behold, I'm in Goa and I'm meditating on the beach. And my wife takes these pictures and there's all these things flying around my head. Like you can see, there's, I've kind of, yeah, so that one is amazing. It's basically, you can see all these white streaks flying off and they're not insects, but then I've kind of played around with the filter and you can see a perfect circular shape. This one's an amazing photograph because this is basically me meditating. And I really don't know what to make of this because if you zoom in on my thumb, you can see energy emanating from the thumb going upwards. So it's pretty weird that I was able to capture that. Yeah, and that's another orb, close-up of an orb that I was able to see.
Was
Yeah,
was
and
this
then
on the trip as well?
yeah, so this was in Singapore. So I was by Marina Bay Sands, and they were doing this light show, right? So there's hundreds of people there, and I thought, what the hell is this? Is this water coming at me? But then I'm looking at the guy next to me. I'm looking at his camera, and there's none of these white lights coming in, and they're only coming in on mine. So then I decided to slow down the video, and I'm actually seeing the trajectory of these orbs go from bottom to top. So I don't know how water can go from bottom to top. I'm just trying to rationalize. So yeah, these things, whatever they are, seem to be attracted to light and sound and music. Grant Cameron, Canadian researcher, put up a really awesome photograph of an orb on Facebook where this guy's playing a flute and you can see this massive green orb just right next to him. So
yeah, Parsi, would you say that like these orbs are like attracted to a specific type of like mindset or frequency that you kind of carry like around with you? Like, how would you kind of explain that?
yeah, pretty much. I think, and this doesn't happen every time. So the phenomenon really has a mind of its own, right? So sometimes you'll try and meditate to have contact, but nothing happens. But then sometimes you go out on the balcony and they'll flash you, they'll mess with your mind. But I think the more that I meditate, the more that I go inwards, you have that ego death. You lose a sense of self. You disassociate with being human. And you just see that you're pure consciousness radiating outwards. And that's what brings them to you. Now, I'm not encouraging people to do that. This is basically just me, for shits and giggles, trying to see if I can see something in my house or outside, and I'll call them. These are basically spirit orbs. So if I call on my grandparents, if I say my grandfather's name or I say my aunt's name, they tend to come up as these white orbs. There have been times when I've seen red orbs, and they have been extremely destructive. I've had really bad amounts of PTSD. I had an experience with during the really heavy orb activity. It was one night, about 1 a.m. I woke up and I'm hearing a helicopter. I'm like, why the fuck am I hearing a helicopter at 1 a.m? So I go out on my balcony, and in the dead of night, I can see this big red thing right next to the city of Melbourne for half an hour. I was just stuck there looking at this thing. And it's just a big, giant, circular red orb. And I was transfixed. I've got a video of it. I've got close-up shots of it. But that red orb just left me shaking. It was a weird feeling. Um, there
So,
have been other. Sorry, go
no,
on.
yeah, I was just going to ask because I'm curious. So when you say like disassociate from being like so much human, do you think you could unpack that a little bit more? Exactly, like what does that mean?
Yeah,
Does that,
certainly.
yeah.
So,
Great question.
dealing with traumatic events in my human life, I realized that the only way to heal yourself is through yourself. You have the power to self heal. So I started doing this Joe Dispenza meditation where he tells you you become no one in nowhere in no time as pure consciousness. So you let go of your identity. You let go of the I from the suffering. You don't have suffering. And I started doing that, and I'd go into this mental state where I stopped thinking about myself. I'm not Mack. I'm not Parsi. I don't have any problems. I'm just consciousness, pure consciousness, connecting to source. And when you get into that state, it's almost like your brain and heart go into this coherent state, like a brain heart coherent state. And it's like being, Dispenza calls it being in the void. So it's just like a black space. And when you're in that black space, you disassociate your identity, your problems, everything about yourself, about being human. And you focus on just being consciousness. And when you're in that stage is when you start having contact. You start having epiphanies. You start having messages from them. So I'm not saying I'm channeling messages, but they've told me a few things over a period of time. And it's always come in drips and drabs. But today I was on a space with Bridget and Darren in the morning about channeling. And Darren said something about the Lyrans, and that triggered me to write this whole thing down. And all the messages that they gave me form one cohesive sentence. So I'm going to read this to you guys. So the message from them was, "Who am I?" It's me asking them, and they ask back, "Who are you?" And the answer is, "You and I are fractals of source. You are us, and we are you. Together we are the heavens. Remember, there are no coincidences, only connections, as you are here today, because it takes all of us to make each of us. So stay positive and stay strong, for together we are stronger, and together we are the disclosure. Be not afraid, and remember who you are." So all those messages that I've been getting as one sentences has just come as one cohesive message.
That's so beautiful, Parsi. I don't even know how to respond to that. I'm sure everybody's blown away just hearing you read that. That's why you're such a kind soul, man. Honestly, that's so good. You got to put that down somewhere. But I do have a question for you from Mendy in the chat, and I think it's a pretty good question. Has Parsi mentioned if he's ever seen or if he ever saw many orbs together at once, or do they come individually for him?
So I have seen them more in clusters. Like when we have that profound experience, it's on my YouTube page. It's really boring. It's 6 minutes, and you'll just see the orbs fly by. But it's never just one. It's always more than one. And many of the ones in the house, you can't see them with your naked eye. But if you pull out your phone and you have that energetic resonance, and you ask them permission and say, "Can you please show up?" They'll fly by really fast. I've never had orbs that have been really slow. Now, I'm not a psycho. I'm not insane. I'm always trying to rationalize. And my wife's a bigger debunker than Mick West. She's like, "Oh, that's just a fly, or that's just dust." But I'm like, where the fuck is the fly or dust? This is a closed room. And these things fly with intelligence. There is a trajectory to them. And how come they only come when you ask them? Like, I'll say my grandpa's name, and I'm like, "Grandpa, if you're there, can you please show yourself?" And I had that one video where I just kind of waved my hand around, and as soon as I waved my hand around, right from my thumb comes out this white orb. It was crazy experience. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, wow. That is.
And
That's
that's another
incredible.
one. That's him again. But this one was just recently, maybe 2 weeks ago in Mumbai. I was just sleeping in my room, and I said, "Can you please show up?" And shows up as this perfectly white orb.
Wow. I think I think your case makes a great argument, and I'll say it. It makes a great argument for, uh, you know, the scientific aspect of the afterlife. You know what I mean? Is that no energy is ever destroyed; it's only transformed. I think that that's such a great. Your case really shows that. But I have another question about this. And the question that I have for you in particular is, what is the difference for you between the orbs that you see that are floating in the sky that seem more of a solid nature versus the ones that you see that would, I guess, maybe be considered more spiritual in nature? What's the difference between those?
So, look, in my case, the ones that I see up in the sky that we call orbs could also be crafts, because to the naked eye, you just see maybe a blue light passing by. But when you really analyze the photographs and you look at the photographs and you see how come every single photograph I've taken is a different shape. And it's crazy. There's like one looks like fire, one looks like a tic tac. I mean, you can't make this shit up. And surely enough, these could be black tech from the government. We just don't know what we're seeing. Like this one here was streaking through the sky, and I took a picture of it. I zoomed in, and it could be a weather balloon. This one here is this is a spirit orb that was around my heart chakra when I had a selfie with my wife. And if you zoom in, it looks like a face. Now, this is another example of a craft that I saw up in the sky after I was meditating. It just looked like a red light, but then when you zoom in, it's got these different shapes. I find that the spirit orbs don't tend to leave me with a negative physical or emotional reaction. It's more like an overwhelming sense that I'm connecting with family. But I find that meditating out in the park and seeing most of these craft or orbs have led to severe mental repercussions, and physical as well. That's why I tell people, just don't go out and, don't go out and start being fucking Stephen Greer and saying, so this is what happens. Don't go out and start praying it to these things, because you never know what's going to show up. So this is an example of scratches that are on my back, all the way in the back. And I'll explain this one. This was a day when I woke up in the morning and I felt these scratches right behind me on my back, and the trajectory was going downwards. So I asked my wife, like, were you pissed off with me? And she's like, what are you speaking about? So I pull my shirt off, and sorry for the hairy back, but there's these 2 scratch marks, right? Now, I didn't think anything of it. I thought maybe I might have reached behind, but then I started trying to rationalize. Now, that same day, I was going to speak to an experiencer by the name of Sean from Ireland or Scotland. I'm sorry, Sean, if you're listening in. It was the first time. So I started this journey of helping experiencers just speak and be heard. Before I met him, I reached out to my wife and I said, I'm going for a walk in the park. Didn't tell her I was going to go speak to an experiencer. And right in front of me, so I'm reaching out to her. And right over here, I feel a sting, and a scratch develops right before my eyes. And I was like, what the fuck is this thing? And I have a picture of that scratch, and it actually healed the next day. It disappeared.
Did you see it? Sorry to cut you off. Did you see that manifest while it was happening, or like
when it happened?
When it happened?
When I went to touch her, I felt a sting, and I saw the scratch happen in real time, which was just bizarre. And it was almost like telling me not to go out and engage with whatever I'm doing. So I ended up going outside to speak to Sean. And I told him, I said, Sean, this is so fucked up. Like, I've had 3 scratches in one day. And I don't know what he was doing on his end. He was meditating, and I got into a meditative state. And while he's telling me about his experiences and vice versa, I started seeing flashers in the sky. And I actually filmed those for a good 2-3 minutes. Usually when you see flashers, they're very hard to film. But that was a very, very stressful day for me, because the next morning I'm looking at my arm and it's healed like nothing ever happened. So it's a fine line engaging with the phenomenon. I know a lot of people will come to us and say, gosh, I'm jealous that you see these orbs and stuff. And I tell people, I don't wish this on my worst enemy. The NHI aspect of the phenomenon can really fuck with you. That's for sure. Because we just don't know what's out there. And the thing is, it happens to us, right? We tend to get obsessed by these things. You see them in the sky and you get that rush. Like someone famously said that we were crack addicts once. There is a little bit of truth to that. We're not crack addicts, but you get addicted to the rush of seeing these things, and you get obsessed with them. So you got to step out of that.
Also, the curiosity too, right? Like the curiosity, wondering what this is. Why am I experiencing this?
Absolutely.
Why do I keep seeing it? To me, and this is my personal experience, I think that that's probably one of the things that I struggled with, and I think a lot of people do, is just wondering what it is. And then when you're someone like yourself who is a heavy experiencer, it's hard to rationalize those experiences and explain them without people perceiving you as crazy and without you being reactive as well. So I have to give you a lot of kudos for that, because you've maintained a level head throughout a lot of your time in the community. Just knowing you personally, that's a big deal. I mean, you see people pop off all the time, and yeah, I just have to give you kudos for that, man, because it's tough when you're struggling with the nature of reality and people are struggling with other things, right, that have nothing to do with this, and you're trying to combine that with like this political disclosure. Like, what are we doing here, right? Like it's hard to balance all this stuff
I've
out.
tried to stay away from the political side of things, and I always tell people, use your discernment and just go with your gut feeling with what you're experiencing, right? And it's not so much about being on podcasts and saying, hey, I'm here, I see orbs, I can pull them out of my ass. It's not about the fame or fortune. It's not for me. It's more speaking to you, speaking to Christian, and finding that purpose in life. That it's hard for us because, and I keep saying this, is it's like an imposter syndrome. I lead 3 lives. I lead that experiencer life where it comes and kicks me in the nuts every time when I'm not thinking about it. Trying to lead that life in the 9 to 5 in this reality, like Christian used to tell me many times, turn off X, go be with your wife. And I've started doing that. And then you have the observer life, which is looking at these 2 lives clashing, and you're like, fuck, I can't even pay attention at work because I'm thinking about UFOs and aliens and when disclosure is going to happen. So now I'm at a stage where I'm like, react less to people, to trolls online, because that's just a reflection of them. If they can't handle it, it's not my job to convince other people. My job is basically to support other people that are seeing this, like yourselves. I mean, we didn't know each other, but we all met, right? There's some force that guided us to come together. And there's one person that's missing here, is Eric Mitchell. I think he's the glue that binds us all together. Because when I was speaking on Christian spaces, I think you were on your own trajectory, but then you started coming in to the conversation. And these experiences are not healing experiences. They just pile on, like a mashed potato syndrome, like he calls it. Just keeps piling on. And then one day you're standing out on the balcony saying, fuck it all, I'm going to end it, because what's the point, right? And I was on that precipice so many times till I heard Eric speak one day. And I was transfixed. I heard him for like 2.5, 3 hours, and I'm like, I got to speak to this guy. Doesn't know me from Adams, but he took 2 hours of his day, sussed me out. We spoke for 2 hours, and he's like, it's not worth it. You're so much more worth than this. And that kind of lit a fire in me, saying that, hey, you know what? All it takes is a little bit of kindness, rather than us jumping on each other and saying, you're schizophrenic, or you're a dickhead, or, you're seeing things. Just to be able to be there for each other. And I think I used to be really reactive when I first started, and when we first started, discussing our experiences. But I've kind of backed off now, backed off of spaces because I don't see the point. Like I see people just arguing about the wrong shit. When is Elizondo gonna fart, or is he wearing a new pair of underwear? Like, who the fuck cares? What's gonna happen is gonna happen. Sorry, Lou, you're a great guy, but that's the honest truth.
Is
What
watching
salad
you now.
is what's his face eating? Hal Puthoff or that other dude? Like, who the fuck cares? What's gonna happen is gonna happen, right? If there's gonna be a comet coming in 5 years, am I gonna build a bunker? No, I'm gonna find a hobby. I'm gonna live. I'm gonna enjoy my life. I'm gonna love the people that I'm with. I'm not gonna wait for that thing to fall out of the sky. So there's so much fear mongering out there. It really stresses people out, and I'm trying to get away from that fear-based narrative. Now we're going to have people come and attack us on X and say, oh, these douchebags are love and light and whatnot. But that's not the case. It's always been about the balance for me, for you, for Christian. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
No, you're so right, man. I mean, that's what people do in ufology, right? Is they make camps, and you got the scientific camp, you got the occult camp, you got the political camp, you got the Lou camp, you got the Stephen Greer camp. I mean, so many factions, right? So it's hard to get mixed into this topic without coming in between one of those at some point in time. And I think
yeah,
I mean, that's just part of it, right? We just got to deal with it. And it's like you said, just have balance. I actually posted a scale on here on YouTube as a post because we took a couple of days, me and Christian. We're like, let's take a breather. Let's just, let's do some real life for 2 days and we'll get back to it. And it's just true. Same thing with what you were saying about being on social media, being on X all the time. It's not good for your mental health, right? And even for yourself, Parsi, right? You would say having this trip, which I would love for you to get into, has been very beneficial, huh? Like this is the thing we
yeah.
talk about,
So
is going out there. Go ahead.
I was basically told that I would be featured in a experiencer documentary, and I said, well, if I'm going back, just for a holiday, I might as well get some documentation of some kind of proof that I was here. I mean, I don't have photographs of the craft, but this is what I saw, and I'll never change my story. But then I was finding myself becoming extremely, and I don't know why this happens to experiencers, but I was never religious as a child. But the more experiences I have, especially after my second regression, where those beings took me to see the all, which is God consciousness, I became deeply spiritual. So and this is where I'm going to segue into, is that I started thinking about this religion that I was born into, right? Zoroastrianism, and I never really gave it any thought. But then the universe started nudging me and saying, ask more questions. So I found some really, really bizarre connections. This emblem that I'm wearing is the symbol for Ahura Mazda, which is Supreme Creator, right? Now, this symbol is not only seen in Zoroastrian culture and on our fire temples, but it's also seen in Anunnaki, Sumerian culture. And I'm not the first one to find it. It was in one of the Secret Machines books by, what's his face, Tom DeLonge. Then I bought this book, Slave Species of the Gods, and I turned to this page. And lo and behold, there's a symbol right there again, right? Sumerian Tree of Life. And then yesterday, for some bizarre synchronistic reason, I walked into a New Age bookstore, go to the secondhand section. This pops out, Gods of Eden. First page I turned to, I was like, holy shit. It speaks about Ahura Mazda being potentially an NHI, not so much as a supreme being or a god that we made them out to be because they had special powers, right?
Is that your actual last name?
No, that's not my last name. So I've just
Okay.
taken it as a moniker.
As a moniker. Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
like it still. It's cool.
Yeah, and it matches, so that's good. Yeah. Yeah, but I'll tell you my last name off record.
Yeah, then,
I just don't want any crazy people.
yeah, we'll get to
doxing.
your
You
social
guys can't
security
get him.
number and all the fun stuff. Don't worry about
You guys,
it.
don't worry. He's not in the US. He doesn't have one. I don't think.
Yeah,
Wait,
so
do
then
Australians?
when I was on X, I started seeing a lot of posts about this emblem called it's called a dorje or vajra. It's a weapon from Tibet, a spiritual weapon. Elon Musk has this on his desk for some weird reason, so he knows something about it. Now, Elena Danaan is a very high-level experiencer, very controversial. She speaks about this potentially being a weapon that the Anunnaki used, so I kind of gravitated towards this, so I bought this in Goa. And the funny thing is, ever since I've been wearing these two things, I haven't had any orb experiences. I haven't had any intrusive experiences. The only thing I've had in the last 2 weeks is me going out and getting a couple of flashes. But if I speak to them or if I speak to them in my house, nothing shows up. So I'm speculating here that this could be some form of spiritual protection. And I'm not paranoid, but this is again just speculation. For some reason, wearing this seems to keep the phenomenon away.
So can I ask? I want to ask you about that, Parsi, because I think that's interesting. Why do you think that this, what you're wearing in particular, like, do you view maybe necessarily that, like, the spiritual protection that you're receiving from these things are warding off the phenomena? Would that, like, I mean, it seems like it would be perceived as somewhat negative then, if that's the case, right? I'm just spitballing a little bit as far as that's.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, and I've never shied away from that, is that if you're meditating or if you're intentionally trying to call in these things, you never know what they're gonna do. So for me, I've been in meditative states just randomly out of work, hop off the bus, and something tells me to look up. I look up and I film this blue thing flying through the sky, and it looks like a blue donut. So I think a lot of these things are attracted to your energy, right? And you don't know what these things are. You'll see there's a photo like a C-shaped donut. You really have to be careful because there's so much out there saying, psionics is a popular thing. Let's get into C5. Yeah, if you're curious and you want to find out about the phenomenon, go ahead. Nobody's stopping you. But it would be irresponsible for me to say that the phenomenon is all love and light or all negative. And don't forget, when we're speaking about the phenomenon, it's multifaceted. You have your biologics, you have your craft, you have your spirit orbs, and it all boils down to consciousness for me, right? So these energies, they can perceive you, they can read your thoughts. If you're going to start inviting things in, then you have to be prepared to be able to deal with it, right? So I've started engaging way less and less because now it's not so much about proving it to others, proving it to myself. It's more about just being at peace that these things are happening to everyone. We're all experiencers in some form or another. It's just that most of us don't pay attention. And I think the important thing to break the stigma is just to be able to speak about it without judgment.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the more that experiencers talk about their experiences, it kind of opens up the door and gives permission to other experiencers to do so too. Like I said, I think too that we're all experiencers, like all of the human race. It's just as much as we're willing to kind of allow ourselves to, acknowledge the experiences that we've had. May it be just a shadow in the corner or anything like that. You know what I mean? That seems out of the ordinary. Sleep paralysis. All these things that can't just be right away explained away. Um, I would say, Parsi, how do you feel now, right? So from where you started, like your journey kind of being on X, to where you've gotten, you've gone on your journey. I would consider it a spiritual journey. That's what I would consider it personally. To where you are now, where do you feel like you're at with the phenomena? Where's the phenomena kind of fit into your life now as a, as an everyday person?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying, well, it should be do or do not. There is no try, right? As in the famous words of Yoda, but I'm trying really hard not to put all my energies into the phenomenon and trying to live my life. It's really difficult for my wife because she thinks, like my whole place is filled with books. Shout out to Kimbo, by the way. I saw your comment. You've done great things for the community, so keep shining your light in the world, buddy. But to come back to this is just to be grounded, guys. You can get wrapped up in this whole thing, and sometimes you need to take a step back and go ground yourself, touch grass, meditate for yourself, live in gratitude. I find that the more, and here's something interesting as well, and this kind of sounds cheesy, but the more I meditate in gratitude, the more things manifest for me. It's cliched as it sounds, but so in the last year, I was always meditating that I'd be able to tell my story, on these podcasts, so I can get my story out, and I would visualize, whether it's Vetted or Jeff Mara or Dr. Sala, and I would visualize these things, and then all of a sudden, I'd get a message saying, "Would you be interested in telling your story?" So I started applying that in my human life, whether it's finances or peace or harmony in your relationships. And it tends to work. And that's what I'm focused on right now, is moving away from the sensationalism of the phenomenon, just being able to live through it and acknowledge it and say it's part of our lives and it's going to be part of our lives moving forward. And things are moving at a very rapid pace. I'm part of a group. I won't really go into it much, but I'm looking forward to Dr. Malgram's interview on American Alchemy, and I suspect that there will be some disclosures more than what we are used to about Magic 12, the group he may have been part of, and I'm only speculating. There's also a lot of talk going on about old gods returning. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. There's people that are getting messages from different beings saying that they're all culminating here on Earth in this time frame for this great, spiritual war that's on us and that's coming.
Yeah, that's I have heard a lot of those things, you know what I mean? But I always try to tend to shut out the noise, right? This is what I'm talking about like X and all of these, like all the narratives and everything, because it's like, personally for me, when I hear something, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll put that in my toolbox for later, if I need it, right? And so, what do you call it? I try to focus on my experiences and what my experiences are telling me. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when we get into like, if I'm a part of your experiences, for example, you know what I mean? That is a data point for me. From a grounded standpoint. But my experiences are not your experience. We do have different experiences. My view of reality is different in a lot of respects from many people's reality. So when I get into starting to hear the old gods and things like that, there's a data point that I kind of put in my toolbox. But I don't necessarily always put so much weight of gravity towards it. And reason being is because it doesn't necessarily always align with my experiences. You know what I mean? But that's just a personal take on that. I think that we've said it a million times, right, Parsi? Even you say it too. Is that we've got to let other people stop defining what our reality is for us. And that includes the narrative as well. There's so many different narratives, right, that are coming from disclosure, government, different factions of people who are involved in this. I think it's so good to bring it back right to our experiences. You know what I mean? Because that's what it means for us. And then also, disclosure starts to happen from the ground up by people telling their experiences, which then opens up another person to be able to talk about their experiences who have another piece of the puzzle. So I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, when it comes to those things, I think it's best to be careful about those. Would you agree with that, possibly?
Yeah, look, that's what I'm saying is use your discernment and use your BS meter for everything. You don't have to believe everything I'm saying. Use what resonates with you. And look, I'll be really honest. Like, I was laughing at that interview with Dr. Greer when he said he caused the Phoenix Lights. I'm like, come the fuck on, man. Like, seriously,
Let's
like,
go.
you know, I used to have so much respect for him, and then I see him touting this fucking CE5 app, and let's go on a cruise for $5,000, and I'll pull orbs out of my ass. What the fuck? Like, seriously. Sorry, Dr. Greer. That's just the honest truth, man. And then you have the other side, you know, like, oh, it's a national security issue. It's a NatSec issue. But I tell you what, at the end of the day, it's up to the phenomenon to decide whether that disclosure is happening. We can scream to the heavens that this is what happened to us. But unless they decide and say, okay, this is when we're going to come down, that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to end this conversation pretty much by saying that, you know what, we're all experiencing something profound amongst us. Take it with a grain of salt, be grounded, and just be there for each other, right? Don't just be swayed by one thing or the other. Oh, they're all love and light. They're all here to tuck us into bed or here to kill and rape us. Newsflash, people. Humans are the same. We're no different. The way we treat other animals or other life forms. So balance is the key.
Totally agree.
I agree. I agree with that, Parsi. And I want to say I appreciate everything you've said today, because with all of your experiences, which it's the spectrum of experiences, call them paranormal, call them UFO related, whatever you want to call them, right? But coming from someone like you, where someone would maybe perceive your experiences as delusional, it's really refreshing to hear someone like you say, well, have nuance in your perspective and live your real life. Don't have your foot completely on this side of the UFO door. Make sure to step outside every once in a while, because I mean, that's what experiences are too, right? It's not something always at a higher dimensional level. Sometimes just going outside for a walk is an experience, right? So just, yeah, I love that, man. So I just want to thank you so much again for saying everything you've said today.
You're welcome, brother. And you guys are amazing. I know you're taking a break from X, but hope you come back. If you don't, I respect that. People should follow Christian. I just want to end by saying, like, you know, as I always say, it takes all of us to make each of us. But I really want to thank you guys, because we didn't know each other last year. And I was literally crying to the heavens, like, you know, help me, send me something, give me a sign that I'm not going crazy and these things are happening. And then I got the trifecta, the three angels, which is yourself, Christian, and Eric, who's not here. So I'm really hoping one day, and I'm manifesting this in my mind, is that we can all meet together, maybe conjure up some orbs, freak everyone out. But
I look forward to the day, brother. I do.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Appreciate your time, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you again, brother. We love you so much. The whole community is cheering you on. Yeah. And Christian, thanks again for coming through, brother. Everybody, if you want to hang out for a post brief link, I'm about to post that here. And as well, have a good night. And thanks again for joining the Portal Room, everybody. Peace.
See you guys.